Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place. And I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently, if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to get hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That is how winning is done.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about what is brand. Before getting started, I just want to put some thoughts in your mind, no pun intended. Are you looking for a way to make your brand stand out? Do you feel that your product or service just doesn't seem to stick in people's minds? Are you wondering why other brands have more impact than yours, or are you one of those people who think that brand doesn't really play a big part in marketing your business? Well, you will be surprised by how much branding plays a crucial role in the success of your business, first by attracting the right customers. How do you get that instant connection with your customers? How do you gain the trust of someone you don't know at all or have little connection with? Instead of immediately spending a lot of money on social media and other advertising and marketing strategies, it is essential to first and foremost develop proper branding plan. Otherwise, your money will just go to waste. You would notice that every successful business out there has that particular branding that we immediately associate something with. As soon as you hear its name, you relate it with either a particular service, name, person, or reputation, you name it. That's because they are able to capture people's attention. That's because they've mastered how to create the right branding. How do they do it? There is actually a process to it, and you will learn about it in this presentation. Particularly, you will learn how you can boost your brand with this step-by-step blueprint, and get them where you want them to be, in a mindset tailored to seeing you as a solution to the problems. What is brand? Your brand is defined by a customer's overall perception of your business. Jeff Bezos says it even better: your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. In today's market, a successful brand has to be consistent in communication and experience, across many applications, environment, storefront or office, print collateral, signage, packaging, website and online advertising, content publishing, sales and customer service. Now, brand building being simple. The truth is, branding doesn't happen overnight, or even in a few months. Building a brand is definitely a process. However, the ongoing effort will result in establishing long-term relationships with your customers. This can lead to a steady increase in revenue, more patients, word-of-mouth referrals, and advocacy for your products or services. What is brand building? The definition of brand building is to generate awareness about your business using marketing strategies and campaigns with the goal of creating a unique and lasting image in the market. Positive impression plus standing out equals brand success. In 2020, the amplification of your brand image can be done effectively through various digital marketing activities, user experience, that is your website, SEO and content marketing, social media marketing, email marketing, paid advertising, PPC. Together, these channels are fundamental to gaining brand awareness and growth. We'll dive into each of these elements in detail later. I simplified the path for a brand building process below, to help your business brand or personal brand gain a more loyal following. Are you wondering where to start? How to build a brand? Discover the purpose behind your brand. Every successful brand has a powerful purpose behind it, and so should you. It's what you wake up every day loving to do for other people and the world through your product or service. There are 4 questions you should ask yourself when defining a brand purpose. Why do you exist? What differentiates you? What problem do you solve? Why should people care? You'll use these ideas to inform the foundation of your branding, through a tagline, slogans, voice, messaging, stories, visuals and more. So dig deep and find those nuggets of truth which can distinguish your brand from others. Leadership expert Simon Sinek developed an impactful model called the Golden Circle. He's also the author of Start With Why. This book is excellent to read. The Golden Circle concept can help in identifying the purpose behind anything in business or life. Really, the three parts to the Golden Circle: what the products or services you offer to your customers, how, the things that differentiate you from the competition, why, the reason you are passionate, and why you exist. In fact, in the coming up video you'll see, Sinek explains how to truly differentiate a brand when most of them fail. I've probably watched this over 100 times, and still get chills when I do. It's one that I send to all clients prior to our kickoff meeting for the brand discovery phase. Some people in the marketing industry think it's overrated, but I disagree. It's inspiring, certainly if you are new to branding a business or idea. And there's a reason why it's one of the most popular TED Talks of all time. Sit back and take a look.
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet, they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it? There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery. And this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the Golden Circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. but it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You ready to buy a computer from me? All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat-screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat-screen TVs. They've been making flat-screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures, and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, you know, there's, if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered man flight was like the dot-com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now, you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people always give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions. It's always the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers' team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich, and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 sets of parts because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually, on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight. And no one was there to even experience it. We found out about it a few days later. And further proof that Langley was motivated by the wrong thing, the day the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He could have said, "That's an amazing discovery, guys. Now we'll improve upon your technology." But he didn't. He wasn't first. He didn't get rich. He didn't get famous. So he quit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Well, why is it important to attract those who believe what you believe? Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. And if you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. The only reason these people buy touch-tone phones is because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all sit at various places at various times on the scale, but what the law of diffusion of innovation tells us is that if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration, and then the system tips. And I love asking businesses, what's your conversion on new business? And they love to tell you, oh, it's about 10%, proudly. Well, you can trip over 10% of the customers. We all have about 10% who just get it. That's how we describe them, right? That's like that gut feeling, oh, they just get it. The problem is, how do you find the ones that just get it before you're doing business with them versus the ones who don't get it? So it's this here, this little gap, that you have to close, as Geoffrey Moore calls it, crossing the chasm. Because you see, the early majority will not try something until someone else has tried it first. And these guys, the innovators and the early adopters, they're comfortable making those gut decisions. They're more comfortable making those intuitive decisions that are driven by what they believe about the world and not just what product is available. These are the people who stood online for 6 hours to buy an iPhone when they first came out, when you could have just walked into the store the next week and bought one off the shelf. These are the people who spent $40,000 on flat-screen TVs when they first came out, even though the technology was substandard. And by the way, they didn't do it because the technology was so great. They did it for themselves. It's because they wanted to be first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe. The reason that person bought the iPhone in the first 6 hours, or stood in line for 6 hours, was because of what they believed about the world and how they wanted everybody to see them. They were first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So let me give you a famous example, a famous failure and a famous success of the law of diffusion of innovation. First, the famous failure. It's a commercial example. As we said before a second ago, the recipe for success is money and the right people and the right marketing conditions, right? You should have success then. Look at TiVo. From the time TiVo came out about 8 or 9 years ago to this current day, They are the single highest quality product on the market. Hands down, there is no dispute. They were extremely well funded. Market conditions were fantastic. I mean, we use TiVo as a verb. I TiVo stuff on my piece of junk Time Warner DVR all the time. But TiVo is a commercial failure. They've never made money. And when they went IPO, their stock was at about $30 or $40 and then plummeted, and it's never traded above 10. In fact, I don't think it's even traded above 6, except for a couple of little spikes. Because you see, when TiVo launched their product, they told us all what they had. They said, we have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, rewinds live TV, and memorizes your viewing habits without you even asking. And the cynical majority said, we don't believe you, we don't need it, we don't like it, you're scaring us. What if they had said, if you're the kind of person who likes to have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, etc., etc. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply serves as the proof of what you believe. Now let me give you a successful example of the law of diffusion of innovation. In the summer of 1963, 250,000 people showed up on the Mall in Washington to hear Dr. King speak. They sent out no invitations, and there was no website to check the date. How do you do that? Well, Dr. King wasn't the only man in America who was a great orator. He wasn't the only man in America who suffered in a pre-civil rights America. In fact, some of his ideas were bad. But he had a gift. He didn't go around telling people what needed to change in America. He went around and told people what he believed. I believe, I believe, I believe, he told people. And people who believed what he believed took his cause and they made it their own, and they told people. And some of those people created structures to get the word out to even more people. And lo and behold, 250,000 people showed up on the right day, on the right time to hear him speak. How many of them showed up for him? 0. They showed up for themselves. It's what they believed about America that got them to travel on a bus for 8 hours to stand in the sun in Washington in the middle of August. It's what they believed, and it wasn't about black versus white. 25% of the audience was white. Dr. King believed that there are 2 types of laws in this world, those that are made by a higher authority and those that are made by man. And not until all the laws that are made by man are consistent with the laws that are made by the higher authority will we live in a just world. It just so happens that the civil rights movement was the perfect thing to help him bring his cause to life. We followed him not for him, but for ourselves. And by the way, he gave the I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Listen to politicians now with their comprehensive 12-point plans. They're not inspiring anybody. Because there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power or authority, but those who lead inspire us. Whether they're individuals or organizations, we follow those who lead, not because we have to, but because we want to. We follow those who lead, not for them, but for ourselves. And it's those who start with why that have the ability to inspire those around them or find others who inspire them. Thank you very much.
Research competitor brands within your industry. You should never imitate exactly what the big brands are doing in your industry, but you should be aware of what they do well, or where they fail. The goal is to differentiate from the competition. Convince a customer to purchase from you over them. We're always thinking about how to make a brand stand out from what's out there already. Don't skip this step in the brand building process. Research your main competitors or benchmark brands. For instance, study how well they have gone about building a brand name. For a brand name to be effective, it needs to be easy for consumers to recognize and remember. Determine your brand's target audience. The foundation for building your brand is to determine the target audience that you'll be focusing on. You can't be everything to everyone, right? When brand building, keep in mind who exactly you are trying to reach. You'll tailor your mission and message to meet their exact needs. The key is to get specific. Figure out detailed behaviors and lifestyle of your consumers. I'll explain with a few brief examples. Instead of all moms, you could narrow down the niche to hone in on expecting moms who are looking for dental care. Techie people is too broad. But tech savvies who suffer from TMJ-related disorders can narrow the focus in. If you are targeting school kids, there is definitely room to get more specific. An example could be, schools kids can get their teeth straight this summer vacation. As you can see, targeting a niche requires committing to something very focused to start. You'll come to realize that the competitive advantage when branding your business is to narrow your target audience focus. This can help ensure that your brand message comes across crystal clear to the intended recipient. Establish a brand mission statement. Have you thought about your brand mission? In essence, you'll have to craft a clear expression of what your company is most passionate about. This is your why, the reason you get up every day. Before you can build a brand that your target audience trusts, you need to know what value your business provides. The mission statement basically defines a purpose for existing. It will inform every other aspect of your brand building strategies. Everything from your logo to your tagline, voice, message, and personality should reflect that mission. When people ask you what you do, answer them with your brand mission statement. You can use the information gathered from the Golden Circle exercise. See Step 1 to create a clear and impactful brand mission statement. Outline the key qualities and benefits your brand offers. There will always be brands with bigger budgets and more resources to command their industry. Your products, services, and benefits belong solely to you. Starting a brand that is memorable means you dig deep to figure out what you offer, and no one else is offering. Focus on the qualities and benefits that make your company branding unique. Assuming you know exactly who your target audience is, give them a reason to choose your brand over another. It's important to note that this is not just a laundry list of the features your product or services offer to the customer or client. Think about how you provide value that improves consumers' lives, outcomes or results that are experienced. Here are a few examples. More authentic and transparent customer service. A better way to support healthy lifestyle, reducing costs with a more affordable option, saving time on daily tasks. Let your brand personality shine. Customers aren't looking for another cookie-cutter company that offers the same thing as everyone else. They are looking for an experience tailored to their needs, backed by genuine personal interaction. Wondering how to brand your business in a unique way? Make your personality stand out in every aspect of your brand building process. Be consistent with this brand personality across all points of contact. It can be as simple as a conversational voice in communication, using I and you, sharing behind-the-scenes content, telling stories about real experiences, describing your products, services in a quirky manner. Build a brand story and messaging. When building a brand, tell customers succinctly who you are. Use the business voice you have chosen for your brand. Your messaging should be intricately associated with your brand and conveyed consistently. This part of the brand development process goes beyond your logo and tagline to define the key aspects of who you are, what you offer, why people should care. A brand story is an opportunity to communicate on a human level, making a direct emotional connection with your consumers. What this means is that the language you use should be understood immediately while striking an emotional chord. Make it simple and clear. Most importantly, when creating a brand story, address not what your product can do, but why it is important to your customer. Stay true to your brand building and be your brand's biggest advocate. Unless you decide to change your brand into something that is more effective based on measured consumer response, consistency is key. What is brand building worth if it is not consistent? Don't constantly change your branding. The inconsistency will confuse your customers, and make long-term brand building more difficult. When you build a brand that works for your small business, you and your employees are the best advocates to market your brand. No one knows your brand better than you, so it's up to you to spread the word. When hiring employees, ensure that they are a culture fit aligning with the mission, vision, and values of your brand. Encourage employees to establish a personal brand that aligns with your company branding process, further strengthening reach. Give your loyal customers a voice. Encourage them to post reviews, or share your content.